Hello and welcome to this BIA webinar. I'm Steve Bates, the Chief Executive of the BIA, and we're here to discuss China. We've had a special interest group looking at China since before the pandemic, and today we've got a fantastic panel that is enabling you to understand the market, what the state of the play is in market, and some of the people who can help you as a UK small and medium-sized enterprise. I'm delighted to be joined by a fantastic panel of Rahul, Chandler, and Eleanor. You can see on the next slide. Apologies, we've had a fire alarm test in those seconds, and rather than you hear that, I thought I'd take a moment to give you a chance to see just the depth of expertise we've got for you on today's panel. With no further ado, I'm going to ask Rahul to start to talk about how the UK government's Department of Business and Trade, DBT, work across China. There's been some changes, and it's fantastic to see the team up and running at full strength post the pandemic. Rahul, over to you.
Thank you very much, Steve, and thank you for inviting me today. So my name is Rahul Agarwal. I'm the Counsellor for Life Sciences and Healthcare at DBT. I have been here for 6 months, and I'm here to tell you more about the China market and DBT China. Next slide, please. So who are we? Next slide, please. So we are the Department for Business and Trade. We offer expertise and contacts through our extensive network of specialists across 6 different cities that are on the slide there in the China network. We are responsible for delivering 4 priority outcomes. That includes investment to the UK from Chinese businesses, helping promote British businesses to grow and export to China, opening new markets, removing market access barriers, and finally supporting the wider free trade, resilient supply chains and economic security. Next slide, please. We get a lot of questions about what the UK government position is on China, and the overall message is that we are here to protect, align and engage across all areas that the UK has interest in terms of cooperation. This is part of the UK government's foreign policy of integrated review, which actually, is freely available online. And what does this mean for business? Effectively, we want a positive trade and investment relationship that is mutually beneficial for the UK and China. And we want British companies to do business in China to help support efforts to make those terms work for both sides. We have a continuing interest in Chinese investment, but this also includes healthcare and life sciences and supporting UK companies to China. And DBT's role is very much the bridge between UK healthcare, life science companies and those Chinese buyers, investors, to navigate that market in a very safe way, going back to my point to protect, align and engage. Next slide, please. In terms of what we promote, these are sort of the 5 areas that we focus in on when we're helping UK businesses, everything from clinical services, digital health, pharma and biotech, medical nursing and education, and medical devices. Today, I'll be focusing on the pharmaceuticals and biotech side, but just to give you a bit of an idea that we have supported hundreds of UK companies and public sector organizations, over 40 plus China investments back to the UK, and also 150 UK exporters enter the Chinese market in the last 5 years. So that's just a bit of our experience. Next slide, please. And this is the team. This is the pharma team that operate across various cities in China, who operate in our embassies and our consulates across the network. Our head of pharma, Vicky, is leading our team, and we are here just to support you as companies, but we wanted to put a face on that team as well. If you're interested in working with us, this is the team that will be supporting you. Next slide, please. So why China? Next slide. I wanted to start with a bit of policy and where China's heading in terms of its vision for healthcare. In 2016, President Xi announced the Healthy China 2013 Blueprint, which was a bold declaration that made health a precondition for all economic and social development going forward in China, with the goal of putting health on the priority list of development. And this focuses on 4 key principles. One is health as a priority across policy implementation. 2 is a focus on innovation and giving a role to the market to simultaneously speed up the reform to energize innovation. 3 is scientific development on prevention and cure. And 4 is fairness and justice in terms of equal access to basic public health services across regional areas in China. And as you can see from this graphic, you can also see there are 5 sort of target areas in terms of where the focus is going to be, which includes health leveling, in terms of life expectancy, healthy life, in terms of literacy of health, security in terms of healthcare as well, in terms of mortality, non-communicable diseases, environmental health, when you think about the wider air quality and water quality, and then finally investment into scaling up the health industry. And this is very much the core central purpose of healthcare policy in China. Next slide, please. So what does this mean in terms of sort of business? I mean, aligning with the Healthcare 2030, the Chinese government is promoting development across biopharma. China has initiated a comprehensive reform of its drug registration system, aiming to streamline approval process, reduce administrative burden, and expedite the market access to innovative drugs. This includes implementing a priority review system for breakthrough therapies, fast-tracking application pathways, and also registration pilot zones, which include Hainan and also the Greater Bay Area, so Hong Kong, Guangdong. In addition, China is also aligning with international standards to facilitate the registration and approval of innovative medicines in China, enhancing global collaboration across drug development. So this includes things such as the International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use, and also signing mutual recognition agreements with several countries and regions to facilitate that mutual recognition between drug approvals. The government is also providing financial incentives to promote the biopharma sector as well, tax incentives, research grants, subsidies, and R&D. And there are also wider economic sort of programs that are helping the life sciences sector, including the Belt and Road Initiative, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, free trade zones, industry academy, collaboration, and patent protection. And these have all led to 4 areas that we think are the key priority areas when it comes to biopharma and what China's looking at. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Raoul, there's been a bit of a glitch. I'm just going to reshare.
So I'll just continue anyway in terms of those 4 areas that Chinese biopharma is looking at as we see the slides load up. So after 1 year of post-COVID reopening China, biopharma industry has been showing signs of rebounding primary demand and warming up of investment and financing activities. And the 4 areas that Chinese biopharma are looking at, which are on the screen now, include innovative therapeutics. So Chinese companies are very interested in licensing and acquiring novel drug candidates or technologies that address unmet medical needs, particularly in oncology, cardiovascular, and metabolic disorders. 2, advanced technologies. Chinese companies are keen on accessing cutting-edge technologies and platforms that can enhance their drug discovery and development capabilities. And these include technologies such as areas of genomics, proteomics, artificial intelligence, and targeted drug delivery systems. 3 is that global expansion. Chinese biopharmas are looking for partnerships overseas that can help their presence to expand into international markets, including access to regulatory expertise, distribution networks, marketing capabilities, and finally, strategic collaboration. These Chinese companies are seeking strategic collaboration with UK counterparts to co-develop, co-commercialize products, share resources and expertise, and leverage each other's strengths to accelerate their own innovation together. So that mutual partnership is so important. And based on these 4 areas and on our research as well, the areas which are in real demand right now include oncology, inflammation, autoimmune, endocrine, ophthalmology, and wider chronic diseases. As I've mentioned, some of them, you know, things such as cardiovascular and the wider areas such as that. Next slide, please. I'll just continue as the slide comes up. But if we're also looking at investments as well, investment into SMEs, after a decade of rapid growth with over 100 billion pounds of USD market cap and 60 listed companies, China's biopharma innovation capital market is in reset mode. I mean, private equity and venture capital investment in biopharma is cooling down, aligning with the international kind of trend. And this requires a bit more of a tailored service to help SMEs to identify potential investors via business matching, one-to-one meetings and various events, which is what DBT can support with. So focusing on investment, I'm going to give you a few examples of where sort of the equity investments by Chinese investors are and where we've supported. Giving you some examples of some of these organizations. So the Chinese Investment Corporate, CIC, is one of the largest sovereign funds, wealth funds in the world, with over 1.3 trillion pounds in assets and major investments around the globe. And they set up a charter house which acquired, I'll continue anyway. So this organization, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, invested in Fastar, which is a biometrics CRO, which offers statistical consulting, clinical trial reporting, and data management and data science services. And the good thing about this is their investment in this platform enabled them as a company, both Fastar and Clinigen, to actually enter the China market as well. So you can see how these investment organizations, not just investing in SMEs in the UK, but also helping them with their market access back to China. As you can see, actually, it's the next slide. It's the slide before this. Sorry, 2 slides. Yeah. Another example is Extalpi, which is an organization that accelerates the innovation of biopharmaceutical companies in areas such as quantum physics, AI, cloud computing, and robotics. And this organization, we help to invest in an organization called Foremost, which is a technology platform for therapeutic targets. And Foremost completed an oversubscribed £33 million Series B investment round in 2021. And again, this helped this organization, this UK organization, to come in with preclinical projects in China as well. There's a lot of examples of different investment Chinese organizations, some of them on the screen. We work with all of them. Organizations such as Chiming, Fosun Health Capital, 8 Roads, Hill House, 3E BioVenture, and Tencent. All of these organizations are looking for UK organizations as targeted investments and destinations, including visiting the UK and visiting some of these companies. Next slide, please. There is also significant change on cross-border deals last year. The increased out-licensing and decreased in-licensing deals in China showcased the significant development of China pharmaceutical innovation capability and demonstrated the impact of policy reform. However, there is still a strong potential for international cutting-edge technology, and the front payment is still significant. So in 2023, there were 36 cross-border in-licensing deals between Chinese companies with an upfront payment totaling £206 million. And most of these deals were signed at phase 2 and beyond, focusing on small molecule therapeutic modality, centered around cancer, digestive, metabolism, and neurology, and also immune. In terms of out-licensing deals from China, this has also increased significantly, and there were 80 deals with 367 million pounds upfront payments. And these out-licensing deals focused more on preclinical stage, and hottest candidates include ADC drugs and cell therapy. And if you want to know who the 5 kind of big Chinese licensees are, they include Haodong Medicine, CS Pharmaceuticals, Simcere Pharmaceutical, Better Pharma, and Hasten Pharma. And we work again with all of these organizations. You can see their logos on the screen. These are the organizations that we would like to introduce to UK organizations interested in the Chinese market. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. What do we offer? as DBT. So what can we help with? So as mentioned, we can help with licensing deals. We help UK farmers find Chinese licensees. We help with service export, helping CROs to provide services to Chinese buyers. Some of those are seen on the screen. We help with market access, helping UK farmers understand the market, policy, regulation, barriers, and patent protection. We have a strong team who can help on this export side when it comes to UK SMEs. On the investment side, we help Chinese pharmaceutical companies set up a presence in the UK and expand their existing presence as well. Again, linking them up with UK organizations in the wider ecosystem. And then, as I've mentioned in my slides before, we help UK farmers seek funding, equity, and capital investment from Chinese investors, which we're seeing an increase in and which we're seeing quite a bit of success in with UK organizations. Next slide, please. Just 2 case studies. I think I might just do one in interest of time. Just an example of a company that we helped with, Diurnal, which are a Wales-based SMEs that specialize in rare disease pharmaceutical assets. They engaged with our DBT Chinese pharma team here in the embassy in 2019 and participated in various market access events. And we provided advice on market access and also business culture in China. We helped them in terms of their visit in 2020 to China Bio, and we arranged multiple tailored business matching meetings with appropriate Chinese organizations. One which was called Citrine, which is a Chinese company that helps develop a therapeutic platform based in Shanghai. And we focused on creating that sort of, that connection between this organization and this Welsh company. And they ended up signing a licensing agreement for 2 of their drugs, and we're supporting their commercial sort of activities in Greater China to this day. So I just wanted to give an example of where we've done this with an organization in terms of that SME side. Next slide, please. Another example here is with Cultec. We helped them in World Health Expo, very similar, helping them connect with a probiotic Chinese company. I won't go into this in terms of time, but another example for you. Next slide, please. And DBT it's not just DBT that you have access to in terms of network in China. There are wider HMG sort of organizations that we also have in the embassy and the consulate network. All of these organizations actually interact with regulatory Chinese organizations like the NMPA, NHSA, the NHC, for various policy exchanges, but also in terms of talking about market access. And we've also developed relationships with the biggest Chinese farmers as well. We know the big names in CROs, CDMOs, CSOs, law firms, consulting firms, associations, academics, and life science incubators. In terms of our embassy, as I alluded to in my first point, we work with the FCDO health policy team, who exchange policy dialogues in the key areas of global concerns, such as infectious disease, antimicrobial resistance. We have a trade policy unit that look at policies around market access barriers, unfair business environments, economic security, and multilateral trade. We work with UKRI, which is UK Research and Innovation, that are the largest public funder when it comes to research and innovation, catalyzing close collaborations between universities, research and innovation organizations between the 2 countries. We have a really good IP office, which I know everyone is interested in. They work on research and analysis, engaging with Chinese counterparts, and also do that one-to-one business support on advice with SMEs and bigger companies. We have an outreach network that look at the wider regions of China. So we're not just looking at the big cities. We are looking at those big provinces that have bigger populations than the UK. And then we have a science and technology team that look at safety. They look at areas like AI, future of mobility, aging society. They look at these areas where we can engage at a more thematic level. Next slide, please. And then in terms of upcoming events, I just wanted to highlight this to you. We aim to do a range of different activities across the year. They include things such as UK to China life science investor engagement roundtables. They include things such as business matching events at big conferences, such as BIA China International, as well as China Biomed as well, which are 2 big life science organizations. The first one being run by Bio organization that do Bio Europe and Bio US. And there are also wider industry sort of conferences that we will go to as well. Some of these are mentioned here. We also plan to do webinars, especially with the BIA as well, maybe a bit more thematically. But all of these events are open to UK SMEs such as yourself, wider organizations if you're not a company, and this is what we'd like to work with you and help you access as well. Next slide, please. So my almost final slide is what's next? As I said, and this is my key message, UK government policy supports engaging China. A positive trade relationship is important to both countries, and biopharma is a priority for the UK and China in all of these areas. And we are here to get connected with you, give you tailored services, help you with business matching, and help you join our events across the year. Next slide, and final slide. So these are some of our contacts. I know that the contacts will be shared probably later. You know, we also have a UK-China Business Digital Connect platform as well that you can register on. And I guess my final message is we're here to help, and we're here to discuss and help you navigate this really astonishing market nice and safely. And that's everything from me. Thank you.
Raoul, thank you for bearing with and batting through our technical glitches. That's a fantastic update, and it's fantastic to see the breadth of the support services that you've got. The plan for the year is very clear. You're open and approachable, which is fantastic. I'm delighted that Vicky's joined us as well. So when we've got questions, as I'm sure we will, I hope you both feel able to engage. And for me, as somebody who was around when I went to the BAO Forum and they were looking at the Henan regulatory environment, it's great to see that that's continued policy-wise, and it really is interesting to see how this has developed. I think the big thing for me is we're now starting to see in 2024 some of that Chinese innovation coming back into global markets, which we've always expected and we've talked about. But to see the deal between Helios Bio and GSK this year, which is based on fundamental antibody technology from China, shows that we in the UK need to understand that we are in a competitive market globally now, and that the Chinese innovation is now seen by global pharma as worthy of substantive investment. So I think we need to make sure that we're on our game with as a biotech cluster and community. We can see the wall of cash and the support that's gone in from the Chinese government to their sector, and it's fantastic to have the support of the UK government for our sector. With that, I'm going to turn now to Eleanor. Eleanor is the Senior Advisor on Tech and Innovation at the China-Britain Business Council, and she's going to give us an update on the China market and how to do some advice on doing business with Chinese partners. Eleanor, it's a topic that we've touched on in previous years, but I think we've probably got people who are very new or pioneering about whether they're going to engage with China. I think the world is different post-pandemic. So really delighted you're with us and look forward to hearing your perspective. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Steve. It's a delight to be here, and thank you very much for having me today. So I'm going to give an introduction into Chinese biopharma and partnering within the jurisdiction. Could you please move to the next slide, please? So who are we? First of all, I'll give a brief overview of CBBC. So that's the China-Britain Business Council, not the children's BBC. We are a network of hundreds of organizations across the UK and China. We have hundreds of paid members who use our services, and as an organization, we assist our members across different jurisdictions within the Chinese environment and across different business areas to partner, to develop their business strategy, to understand Chinese policy, and to share best practice. We've been going for, I think this slide is slightly outdated, 70 years, I think is this year. And so we have a wealth of experience. Can you move to the next slide, please? So here is our network across the UK and China. I'm based here in the UK, but we have offices across China, as you can see from this. Our team, you know, we're a very multilingual, bicultural team. The vast majority of us have lived in both countries. I previously worked in China for 8 years. I'm fluent in Mandarin, and I wear 2 hats here at the CBBC. So I'm both the sector lead for tech and innovation, and also healthcare and life sciences. So what that means is that I help on our membership engagement, provide strategy advice to companies within those sectors, and also operate within our commercial services and help both membership and non-membership companies with regards to our commercial service offering. Could you go to the next slide, please? So just a quick whistle-stop tour of what it is that we do. We provide within commercial services three major services. The first of which is Gateway, which offers the opportunity for companies, be they membership or non-membership organizations, to commission individual projects that are tailored to your needs and have a defined end goal. So, for example, what that might look like is a piece of market research into a specific area within the Chinese pharmaceutical context, and or finding partners and introducing you to those. So it is very much a tailored approach, and it will have a definitive end goal, which we will deliver. Our next service, if you could move to the next slide, please. Navigator is a little bit more for companies that, whereas Gateway might be for somebody that's already in market, it might be for a company that is considering China as a market and is not sure if it's a good use of resources or needs to get more information. Navigator tends to be for companies that are entering the Chinese market, and we provide a defined level of hours on a monthly basis to help companies who are either setting up, they're partnering, and they need a variety of different services within the market without necessarily going to the extent of setting up an entity within China. So we provide that through the China Business Council network. And then finally, for companies, if you could move to the next slide, please. We have Launchpad. So if you've decided that you're committed to China, you would like to employ individuals within the Chinese market, then you can do that through the CBBC Launchpad service. So we will help you to hire individual on the ground in China who can be your counterpart if you're partnering, if you're working with a Chinese pharmaceutical company, for example, or a local government. And instead of having to set up within China, you could even, we do have individuals who, or companies who have used Launchpad to help them to set up within China as a first stage. But many decide that this is the level of engagement they're comfortable with, as it tends to be quite a cost-efficient way to enter. Okay, could you move to the next slide, please? So we're going to have a little look at the Chinese biopharma market and what that means for UK SMEs partnering within it. So what are sort of the big take homes when it comes to the Chinese healthcare market? First of all, it is large and it is growing. I won't labor this point. I think Rahul has done a very good piece of introducing you to what that looks like. Could you move to the next slide, please? So what we're seeing is a significant increase in the results and the quality of Chinese healthcare. It has obviously become a large policy priority for the government. And so you've seen a significant increase in life expectancy. And of course, along with that, you have also a significant increase in chronic diseases as people are living longer. They're getting sick in their older years. And so you have an increase in chronic diseases, an increase in things like obesity. So we're starting to see more of these diseases that come along with an increase in GDP and prosperity. And I think, interestingly, here I've included sort of a graph of maternal mortality. And you can see over the past 20 years, I mean, I think this is quite a shocking demonstration over the past 12 years of how much that metric has improved, sorry, not increased. And it is now in line with, for example, the US. So you have seen very sharp improvements in terms of the quality of healthcare. And along with that comes a much larger market. To please read the next slide. I think Rahul has covered this, so I'm going to move on in the aims of time. Okay, so what I want to talk about here is what it looks like in terms of the trends within the market. So as you can see, China is now the second largest market after the United States at 300 billion USD. And for companies that are working within China, I think it's interesting to see how the marketplace has changed over the past 5 to 10 years. So more recently, what we have seen is a really fast approval of innovative drugs from multinational corporations. So whereas previously it might have taken a few years, once you had received your approval in another jurisdiction, for that to then translate to the Chinese services, now you can have approval by the NHSA within a few months, which we saw with AstraZeneca's Tagrisso, which is a lung cancer drug. There's a highly capitalized life science sector, and so for SMEs, which I know is a large bulk of the audience here, you can find financing and outlicensing opportunities for innovative drugs. And I want to stress that point that China is a very interesting market for companies that have very innovative pharmaceuticals, because I think whereas 10 years ago we wouldn't be having quite the same conversation about innovation within the Chinese market as we have previously spoken about, and as I think Steve alluded to and spoke specifically about, you were seeing much greater level of innovation and competition coming specifically from China. And so along with that, we have an increased output licensing of Chinese drug innovations, which I think it was up to about 40% in 2023. So those had a total value of 35 billion USD, with the vast majority of them within oncology. So you're seeing some really interesting innovation coming out of China, and we need to be aware of that. We need to, see that both as a challenge and as an opportunity. So what does it look like? The next piece, I think, will be an interesting piece for you to understand how the Chinese healthcare system works with respect to pricing. When you're determining whether to go into a market, understanding where your profits are going to come from, I think is quite useful. So I want to have a little look at the national reimbursement system within China. I think the national reimbursement drug list is really key to understanding the profitability curve for drugs entering the market. So one improvement that you've seen in the past few years is that, and first I'll actually introduce what this means, is within the Chinese system, you have a insurance system whereby the government will pay out the majority of the cost for drugs, with the end user paying a copay of 30%. So, of course, as a pharmaceutical company, it is, quite an important thing to be able to be included within this national reimbursement drug list. So previously, the negotiations for this were not quite as common. They every few years. Now they do a yearly negotiation, which means that as soon as we've seen, you have a fast approval of your drug into the market, you can fairly quickly be in those negotiations to have your drug reimbursed as part of the healthcare system, the national healthcare system there. And so what you see is a steep profitability curve. So you get into the market, and provided that you can get you can negotiate one of these agreements, and there's some qualifications here I'll go into in a moment, you will see a huge uptick in use of your drug, and that continues until loss of exclusivity. So there are two pieces here, is that there are huge pricing pressures within this market. It's a huge market. You have 1.4 billion people within it. And so as a pharmaceutical company who is negotiating with the Chinese government, or with NHSI as a representative of the Chinese government, you have to be offering fairly steep discounts. And there's another qualification here, in that not only are there steep discounts expected, for expensive drugs, I think it's generally accepted that an expensive drug is a drug that costs over 300,000 RMB per annum. So that's just over £30,000. You're unlikely to be able to negotiate one of these deals because it's expected that the average earner within the Chinese economy should be able to pay for their treatment on that salary with their copayment. So for drugs that are underneath that cap, you have this option. But when you lose exclusivity, whereas previously off-patent originated drugs might be a place where you make a large amount of profits, the NHSA has a system which was set up in 2018, which is based on volume-based procurement. So you have to submit your bids to the NHSA in order to be considered, an accepted provider of said drugs. But the catch here is that within that context, there is an expected decrease on the price of the drug of 60 to 80%. And many international companies are not able to provide that. And so you see a much smaller number of international companies who are winning these BBP bids because they do not have competitive pricing. Could you move to the next slide, please? Ellie? I'm not sure if you can hear me, Anjali. Okay, I'll move on to the next section.
Yep, we can hear you, and I think we can see the next slide as well.
Oh, okay, that's my slide then. Don't worry, I've got another some slides on the side here. Okay, so if I'm right, you should be looking at the market challenges for UK businesses. So as I've mentioned here, we're talking about pricing pressures, local competition. Obviously, when you're seeing a much greater level of innovation within the market, there's a lot more competition, and you have to have innovative drugs in order to be able to find market share. Intellectual property is a perennial problem, one that has been strengthening. I used to work, my previous role was as an IP strategist, and people would ask me whether IP exists within the Chinese system, which is a very frustrating question if you're an IP strategist. But I think it's one shared by my friends at the IPO, Rahul. But what you have seen is increased strengthening of intellectual property protections within the Chinese system, which go hand in hand with this increase in innovation. And, obviously there's a large number of patents coming out of China. The innovativeness of those patents has been improving over recent years. And the patent linkage system is one of the outcomes of this. One of the problems is that you can expect that then we might have IP issues. And we're still, despite over the recent years, you've seen an increase in the number of damages, or in the amount of damages awarded to companies. And punitive damages are part of the new patent law. they were not previously, it's still, in comparison to other jurisdictions, a comparatively lower amount. And as I said here, there's also been a very strong crackdown on bribery within the healthcare system. And actually, for companies working with CBBC and working with DBT, I think this is also a very good reason to do so, in that it can sort of act as a buffer with regards to any questions regarding bribery, etc. And move to the next slide, please. So what does this look like for partnering? I think this is the key question for most people. And before I get started on some case studies, I just want to say that China is not one quantity. So it is a huge country. It is absolutely massive. And the difference between a first-tier city like Beijing and a third-tier city is, it can be like night and day. You're talking about very different regulatory frameworks, very different ways of approaching things like sourcing and procurement, depending on the local government that you are working with. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's useful to have local partners and to work with organizations like DBT and CBBC, because we can help you to meet the right local governments, to meet the right companies, to understand what the framework is within a region. Could you please move to the next slide? So, for example, we here have company A, and so they're a specialist distributor of specialized low-volume pharmaceutical products. They began to work with CBBC around 4 years ago, and initially they came in on a gateway project, commissioned us to search and build relationships, so partnering with local Chinese distributors and manufacturers for licensing rights and distribution into China. So what we did as part of that was to help them to set up those initial meetings with biopharma manufacturers and distributors. We helped them to build those sales within the market, which helped them to then further justify that investment into China, which it's that first easy win. And I think that's the purpose of organizations like CBBC and DBT, is to help you justify further engagement with a market that can be intimidating, it can be complicated, and to get people on board. So we then worked with them to help them to hire their local business development staff in China and set up a legal entity to provide their visibility to Chinese customers and for admin within the region. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Eleanor, out of respect for our other panelists and the clock, I'm going to have to ask you to speed up a bit because I'm really keen to make sure we have some time
nearly done.
For Chandler and for the questions. Thanks.
Okay, in that case, I'll go past the next slide and just on to our next events. Could you move on 2 slides, please? So I just want to promote here, this is our upcoming flagship event, which is the UK-China Business Forum. I will be chairing a healthcare panel there. So if you're interested in what we're talking about today, this will be looking at innovation within the Chinese healthcare system, and to be very welcome to come and join us there. I think today is the last day for early bird. So scan your QR code and please do come join us. Thank you very much, Steve.
Eleanor, thank you. And it's now my great pleasure to introduce my good friend Chandler Chen. A company that's made a great success in China from a UK perspective is AstraZeneca. And Chandler has been at the heart of AstraZeneca's role in UK-China collaboration. I've been to the iCampus in years past, and it's great to have you with us. Do please give us the perspective from AstraZeneca.
Thank you very much, Steve, and hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah, this is slide. So thank you very much for having me today. And I still remember back in 2020, we had a very successful joint webinar with BIA, talking about China-UK collaboration and how time flies. So this time, I will share with you some key progress regarding the AstraZeneca China's innovation partnership, and especially our international collaboration, including UK as our very important market for collaboration. Next slide. So I think on top of bringing new good medicine from UK as our global headquarters to China, we now have 3 circles of external innovation that really want to accelerate our China partnership. So for the core of our R&D innovation, we will, on top of our global initiative, start to trigger this China initiating R&D innovation, such as gastric cancer, where China has a very huge epidemiology, to initiate some China-specific R&D initiative to contributing to the global R&D pipeline. And second, we also very active in business development and also the venture investment. So on top of this, we have been in charge of the iCampus, which is the open innovation hub that we've been working over past 4 years. So today, I will briefly share with you our BD Venture Fund and iCampus. Next slide. Okay, at this moment, we already built 8 innovation hubs across China at key regional cities with different therapeutic area as our innovation theme. So this is aligned with Chinese government's policy support for the industry development, together with the major therapeutic area that AstraZeneca is focusing on. So this becomes very vertical, but very professional end-to-end innovation ecosystem platform, covering not only drug, but also device, diagnosis, digital, and other innovation therapy that already have accumulating more than 140 resident company to set up a footprint across the 8 physical science park space. Next slide, please. I give you an example that how we actually run this kind of ecosystem partnership across the specific therapeutic area. One of the mature solution that we've been consistently working on over the past 8 years is called the Metabolic Management Center, MMC. This Metabolic Management Center is aimed to help the hospital better manage the end-to-end patient journey of diabetic patient in one-stop way. So instead of diabetic patients come back and forth for different testing and health checkup to very crowded hospital, the MMC now provide one-stop, all-in-one machine to be able to identify all the risks associated with the diabetic patient, and together with the overcomplication. Now this has already scaling over key hospital with more than 1,000. On top of this, it's interesting that we start to have specific iCampus incubating program. One of them is the M Campus. This metabolic campus is willing to help providing the medical scenarios, accelerated development of metabolic specific startup incubator to work with the MMC hospital as a network to implement their new technology. On top of that, we will also work with the government to hold a milestone industry event to bridge the capital company and the key doctor as a go-to platform together to exchange the new innovation solution together. Next slide, please. So among those Chinese tech innovation company pool, we then starting from 3 years ago, came up with a $500 million fund to focus on innovative drug, but also has another half of non-drug sector with currently almost 20 portfolio company at growth stage. So this is really want to further accelerate all the innovation company with China angle. Next slide. And so only last year, we among the biotech company, we already screened more than 800 company associated with the China market, and we are looking for the truly innovative company across key dimensions. This including the first-in-class MOA with strong clinical and scientific evidence. Also, some high potential innovation technology with disruptive platform has the potential going global, all key area. Last but not least, we also look at the early stage, clinical stage asset that also can achieve the global best-in-class and first-in-class potential. So one of the largest deal we have last year is among cell therapy, that this is actually among the Chinese biotech industry history, very first buyout case that we acquire Gracell as the therapeutic key innovator from China as our buyout business case on top of the traditional licensing and license out deal at product level. Next slide. So for non-drug, we'll cover also like 7 portfolio at this moment in the aim to maximize the therapeutic area potential to have synergy with our medicine. Next slide. So actually, we are working on this not only for China innovation, but really want to bridge the China innovation with international market. So last year, we bring more than 100 companies to Belt and Road emerging markets to seek partnership lending for science collaboration all the way to the commercialization. And also by the end of last year, we bring AstraZeneca international leadership team to have meeting in UK to see how we can also to organize a plan, a potential China innovation delegation visit this year to UK. And we also have the pre-honor to also visit Steve Bain and to see how BIA can also play a very important partner together to bridge the UK and China innovation. Next slide. So I think this year we are very promising that different governmental and industrial partners all around the world are coming to China since the end of last year with very clear partnership needs. And so we also want to bring this kind of know-how of collaboration to apply for UK-China collaboration as well. So we believe that, first of all, among UK, there must be cutting-edge, truly novel innovation that needs to be scaling with more partners. So this is the area where China innovation can have a position where a lot of Chinese partners are very strong at engineering and execution. We believe this kind of mutual complement for the novel innovation from UK and the strong execution and the scaling capability from China can be a potential collaboration area. And second, I think China companies also have the budget, the licensing and the investment plan to seek a good business deal in UK. So this also can provide add-on capital and financial support that potential UK innovation startup is looking for. And last but not least, we believe science and innovation is without borders. So we truly believe our current China and ex-China collaboration can maximize the impact for UK-China collaboration as well, starting from this year. And today's webinar is also a good start to enhance our collaboration. Next slide. So I think that's all of my today. I'm very happy to work with BIA to further our UK-China innovation collaboration. Thank you.
Chandler, thank you so much. It's really impressive to see the scaling of the initiatives over recent years, true globalization that you see to many countries, the links to the Middle East. And I think from our perspective, it's great to see a UK company, UK HQ company, being that bridge, and from our perspective, making some of that journey to China much simpler. So we've got 2 or 3 minutes left. I'm going to look for some questions in the chat, and if there are comments, questions, or anything, do please pile in now. I know that there's some experts on the line with us, but my first question is, if you're new to this, what one thing could scaling companies do this year, do you think, to take them on the journey? I'm going to start with Rahul, then get to Eleanor, and then Chandler. If you're a small company and you could do one thing, Rahul, what would you suggest they do?
Yeah, I think it would be to understand how China could potentially fit within your strategy. It's a massive market, as Eleanor said. It's just the sheer size is incredible. But it's also important to do it safely. You know, it's important to make sure that you understand the business culture, you understand the relationships, you understand the provinces and the need from patient perspective and business partner perspective before you come into this. But again, that's something that all 3 of the speakers have said today can help with. So the information and advice is there, but it's important to be considered as well when you enter this market. But there's lots of opportunity.
Thank you. Eleanor.
Thanks. I mean, I would agree with that. I think it is very important to meet people. I think that's my number one piece of advice is before you start is to meet people, to talk to them, to meet as many people as you can and to share that best practice. And you can do that at any of our events. Come and find any of us afterwards and pick our brains. Because I think when you're looking at the Chinese regulatory framework and you're looking at it as a market, it's very difficult to understand it holistically without getting some first-hand experience. So speaking to other companies that are already in market and experts on that, I would say is key.
Thank you. Chandler, what would your advice be?
I think for a startup from UK, China market entry through partnership is the key. Especially, I think interlinking different key stakeholders, just like today, because actually the BIA, DBT, CBBC, and AstraZeneca, and many others can all be there helpful to entering the big market through partnership. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm afraid we've got to the top of our hour. I think we should end this here. Can I thank you all for your expertise, your contribution, and your bearing with on the technical challenges we've had today. I think what I would leave people with is doing something complicated with friends is much easier than doing it on your own. There is a broad network out there who can help you, and you've seen a taste of the people who can. There are events that are around. Vicky's joined us to say hello, so it's fantastic to say hi. Vicky, do you want to say anything in closing?
Hi, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I'm Vicky, as Rahul mentioned. I'm head of pharma leading in China, so I'm here to help and welcome to get connected. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. So I think there's a series of events, both in the UK and online and in China. So depending on where your level of where you are on that journey, lots of those are going on through 2024. There's things that you think this group could be doing more to help, please let me know. Do please reach out to people. You can see that there's deep expertise, deep knowledge, deep networks that can really help you. And I realize that each people will have different particular asks, but I hope you can see that there's lots out there that can help you make this bridge and go on the journey. And I thank the experts for sharing their time and their expertise with us. Thank you all, and thank you for attending.